We all know the names: Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, Melanie Perkins, Mark Cuban, giants now. But what about before the business boomed? Before the cameras, before the headlines, before the money? What did they do when they had nothing but an idea and the pressure to sell? That's exactly what this episode is about. We asked 12 real entrepreneurs from around the world how they navigate the 4 most difficult challenges in sales, the ones that come up at the start and never really go away. These are the conversations that happen before the success story, and the answers might just be what you need next. Let's get into it. Love it or hate it, sales prospecting is crucial and can be pricey. Done right, it brings in qualified leads. Done wrong, it's a waste of time and money. So, how can you start sales conversations on little to no budget? We ask the experts.
1.
Organic marketing, grassroots marketing. You know, we all have a phone. We all have a cell phone, right? How easy and inexpensive, it's cheap because you have the phone anyway. Get on Facebook, do a live video. Get on LinkedIn, do a live video. Get on Instagram, do a live video. Be in front of your customer. So many people are afraid to get in front of that camera because, oh my gosh, my hair's not perfect. I don't have all my makeup on. Your customers don't want to see that. They want to see them on the other side of the screen. They want to resonate with you. So even if you don't have tons of money, that's okay. There's so many things nowadays. I look at when I started 25 years ago, my wedding and event planning business, the internet and social media wasn't even there. Like, we didn't have anything to go off of. So we had to really pound the pavement. It's so much easier now, but harder because everybody thinks things have to be scripted and perfect. They don't. Your customers don't want to see that. They want to see you. And you can do that for $0.
2.
Digital marketing is very much a pay-to-play space right now, but that doesn't mean that there are no opportunities to get started and not have to invest all those dollars. I think people aren't really thinking outside of the box enough when it comes to what platforms to use. We're so used to, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's TikTok, that's it. But there's a lot more that you can do. Try out Reddit, depending on what your product is that you're selling or your service. Maybe there are some threads on Reddit that you can just jump into for free and start chatting with other people. Not only is there a chance that you'll find customers there, but maybe you'll start learning what your consumer base wants more of from, what the pain points are. Think of, maybe on YouTube, maybe you don't have the dollars to produce a bunch of YouTube videos or to go out and run YouTube ads, but for free, you can start watching other YouTube videos and engaging in the comments. You can respond to people and kind of same thing, be really in the mix. Obviously, it's more time consuming than just posting something and putting some ad dollars behind it. But if you're not at that point yet, you can certainly start playing in the free space.
3.
That's where the handwritten note, I think, comes in is you can do that no matter what. You get, it costs $30 to buy a pack of 100, note cards, and it costs 55 cents to send it via general mail. And it costs 2 minutes of your time or 5 minutes of your time to write a thoughtful note. What I have found is that calling behind and emailing behind that type of effort has a much, much higher percentage. I'll talk to clients, who've given up on cold calling when it comes to meeting new people, and I get it. Like, I don't blame you. Cold calling sucks and generally doesn't work. But if the only thing you do is cold call. If the only thing I do is pick up the phone and call you and say, hi, my name's Chad, we haven't met, do you mind if I take a minute to tell you who I am and figure out if we should do business, right? If I just make a bunch of those calls to perfect strangers, the numbers are so pitifully low in terms of the return on investment. I don't blame you for thinking cold calling doesn't work. But you know what? If I pick up the phone and I call that person after having sent them something thoughtful and a handwritten note, right, that illustrates that I'm thinking of them, that I've taken time to research them, and then I make that call. Now, my conversion ratios are going to be dramatically higher. So on that list of 100, if I was making straight up dials, I might get 2-3 appointments out of 100 dials. But if I do 100 handwritten notes and 100 thoughtful, outreaches that way, I've seen conversion ratios on that get up into the 15 to 16% range, which is still a whole hell of a lot of notes that go nowhere. Right? I'll acknowledge that, but I'll take those ratios all day.
4.
To get to a sales conversation, let's step back because we have to create some type of outreach to get a connection. I think what they're asking, if I understand correctly, is how do we do this cost effectively or with little to no budget? So when we're doing this outreach, what we want to look at, what type of methodologies are we using that we can afford to do? Now, what is that? When we do an outreach method, we're going to get a connection. That connection is going to, get a view, if you will. So the view is going to get a response. That response is, hey, this is good. Hey, this is not good. If it's good, we want to set an appointment. If we set an appointment, we can have a conversation. That conversation should lead to a sale. Now, the question really becomes is, what is the lifetime value of that particular sale? So when a lot of times people think I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that. If they look at what is that lifetime value, let's say that lifetime value is $5,000. The question is, what are we willing to invest in order to get that $5,000? So if it's, hey, I can invest $20, well, then in most cases, it's going to be direct connection, right? We're going to be reaching out directly to that client. We're going to make a phone call. We're going to use some LinkedIn, let's say, or some direct messaging platform that we can go out and create a human-to-human connection. If it's, I'll spend $500 to get that $5,000. Then we can use different types of methodologies, paid media. We can, whether it's online or offline. Right. So when people are looking at this whole thing, one of the mistakes that people make is they don't look at the lifetime value of the client or what they're going to get from that particular sale and how many people they got to go through to actually get that sale and then determine what that is. But if it is just pure out, I have little to no budget, and it's always going to be direct connection is going to be the easiest thing to do. If you don't have the money and you need the money, get the money before you actually start the business. It's one of those things because if we don't have the money, then we're always going to play in scarcity mode. So I think it goes back to them not understanding the rules of business, which is money out, money in equals something. Well, we've got to put money out in order to get the money in of some sort. Now, we can also exchange that money out for time out or energy out, right? And that's where we get creative. But there's a lot of ways to reach out for free. The reality, though, are your clients actually in those areas that are free methodology? Sometimes you just got to pay to play, and that's just the way it is, depending on the type of business.
5,
I am terrible at sales. I am the worst salesperson on the planet. I can tell you how I do something and I can tell you why I do something the way that I do through my processes, but telling you why you need to use my service, that's where I kind of start to falter. So what I've done is, because I am such an introvert, I've allowed my work to start speaking for me. You should go with my services because of these, 1,000 examples of work that I've done exactly like it or similar to it in the past. So I think that sales is entirely possible for extroverts and for introverts. You just need to find what you are comfortable with presenting to people. And a portfolio of work is an absolutely great way to have a sales conversation.
Knowing common sales objections helps you tackle issues early with the right strategy. But first, you need to recognize them. What are some of the most common sales objections and how do you overcome them? We ask the experts.
1,
When we run a business, we will come across customers who want certain customizations and they prefer certain things which is not in line with what you offer them. Just for example, you are selling a set of suits. Now they may say, I don't want the same color vest. I want a contrasting vest, the inner vest, or a contrasting tie, or maybe a contrasting pocket square as small as that, or even a button. Now what we do is that we listen to our customer and we provide extra service. That means that we listen to them and we try by all our means to make it happen for them. If they want to have a different color vest, yes, I can do it for them, and at what cost it would be. Or if they want a different color tie, I will also switch it up for them. So when customers realize that, hey, you are listening to me, you are making it happen for me. I have a wedding and it has this theme and you're like helping me to realize it and making it happen. So when this happens, we overcome all the rejections and make them happy, and they will come back for more because they realize that I have a personalized service here.
2,
Well, the sales objection it's the easiest one for any business is price, right? That's the I don't care if you're selling shoes or you're selling cars or yachts, it's price. Maybe if you get to the $100 million yacht, it's not as much price, higher the better. Most of your objections are price, delivery, service, things like that. There's no way to beat price, especially if all you are is a price. If you're going to fight in the price level, you're going to be, I consider, bottom dwellers. That's your client. They'll leave you for $1 less next time. I want the client, we call blue water. I don't want the muddy water. I want the client in the blue water swimming away. That's my client. That's the person I want to go after. They have more money. They have the ability to make a decision. They want to make a decision with the right quality and the right customer service. When you have an objection, and if you don't have objections, you're not trying. There's objections everywhere. You write them down. These are my 5 objections per category. And you work with yourself or somebody who's a professional, say, how do I overcome these 5? And you write down and you role play and then you test and you see how it works. Overcoming pricing or delivery is nothing but the way you present your product before that discussion comes up. The minute I meet Anna, I want to make sure she understands we're of high quality. We also have a great business. We also have very loyal clients. We also have been in business for a long time. And the reason is we provide you with a great product and service at a fair value. And we are there for you. So that's what client would want to hear. And I don't care, but you have to get that point across. I don't care if they want the best price. That's okay. You want to get why to use us and why your best customers use you. I mean, we have franchisees that do very well in our Carchbold system. And sometimes they have to, it sounds a little crazy, but they fire some of the better customers, larger customers, because they've beaten them up so much on the price at that point in time. It's not valuable for the franchisee to continue to service them and the amount of deliveries and headaches and things like that. So, every business should want really good clients that pay their bills, can use your service, and really want to work with a professional that makes their life easier. And that's your objections. You got to write them down. It's always going to be price at some point along the line, but there's 25 other ones that you can come up with today. But you write them down, you write up answers to them, you test them, you see if it works, you retest, you rewrite until you get it down to where you can overcome almost any objection that comes your way.
3,
Our sales process is really much more of a service process than a sales process. I've never been into sales per se, like putting goals out and just churning in leads of sorts. It's got to have much more of a service orientation to it. So like really understanding who the client is, really understanding what their needs are, like a needs-based selling approach, customizing our solutions to what their needs are. Being the expert in strategic planning and being able to bring frameworks to them and being able to bring process to them is essential. And like literally servicing them as we are building this business opportunity together. I often say you choose to partner with Trepwise to achieve greater outcomes and greater impact. And I view it as a partnership. So I shy away from the sales concept, although I know exactly what your question is leading to. As part of our service support, we do get questions, and those questions tend to be around timing. Like, does it really take 4 to 6 months? Around inclusion? Do we really need to include all the stakeholders? And not so much on price, actually. I think by the time they get into the pipeline, they understand that kind of who we are and that we're kind of an elite consulting organization. So people are aware that that's going to be probably more expensive for what we do. But oftentimes it's about timing and inclusion. Can we do this faster? And can we do it more efficiently with fewer people? So then we walk through why feel that the timing is what the timing is, why it's important to be very inclusive with your stakeholder engagement, why it's really, really important to invest into your discovery work up front so we have all the learnings that we need to have to actually build the foundation of your plan. But those tend to be the key questions. The other question, which is very common, is, well, who will be on my team? So, because we're building rapport with our prospects as we're bringing them on as new clients. So they get to be with certain people, and they tend to like those people, but those people might not be on the team that's going to be servicing them. So that's another question. They need to get comfortable with the team.
4,
I think it is justifying the cost. So helping the client to actually understand, like, we have a whole team behind us here. Like, it's not just me. We wouldn't get very far if we did. You know, we have a whole digital PR arm to the business and everything like that. Like, it's extremely costly with that many people and that many seats. But we have to have that many people to get the speed of rankings and attraction that we do with things. You know, if you want something cheaper, we're not the company for you. But if you want something that is going to work and is sustainable and you're going to make a lot of profit from, then we're the ones to go with. So it's really understanding that and laying that out, and helping to educate as much as possible with SEO, because there's so many pieces to the puzzle. And we found that when we educate a lot more, that question is a lot less. It's like, oh, that's a good deal.
5,
In my industry, it is definitely, I've tried lots of things. How are you different? Or how can you help? Why is what you do different than, 10 years of psychotherapy? So it's things like that. It's almost distrust. And it's not really at the level I am at now, but it's certainly in the early stages, there was a lot more having to justify what I did. And I used to kind of almost joke it off. People would go, well, why should I work with you? And I'd always go, you called me, you booked the call, you tell me, it's like, and sometimes so you have different types of people, and one type of person is called a mismatcher. And they're whatever you say, they will tend to look for the opposite. So I would say, oh, this chair behind me is black, for example. They go, nah, it's more gray. They would always look for the difference. And so those kind of people go on, tell me why I should work with you. Maybe I don't want to work with you. Maybe you're not right for me. No, and they'll actually start arguing to work with you. So, but yeah, I think the big is why will you make a difference over somebody else? I think that tends to be the biggest question.
6. I think the most often heard objection is, oh, I don't need that. And that is often followed by either somebody hanging up on me or a conversation about, well, tell me a little bit more about why that's the case. And so I much prefer the second part of it. I'm here to solve people's problems. If they don't feel like they have a problem and they don't need a solution, then we're not going to have a relationship. And so, I don't need that is probably the most prevalent thing that I've heard across the board. I have heard other people say, "Oh, it's too expensive," but I always try to position my products where that's not an excuse somebody can give me. So we end up with typically a good conversation or no conversation. The great news is that there's we have a solution for people who need a solution. So my job is to make sure we go and find them.
Customer referrals can boost your return on investment and bottom line. When someone refers you to a new prospect, it's a strong endorsement of your business. But what are the do's and don'ts when asking for recommendations? We ask the expert.
1.
Word of mouth and referrals is such a big deal. Even when we talk about more modern styles of marketing like social media, it's still essentially referrals and word of mouth that's at the core of that. And so many small business owners really, really, really do have an issue with putting themselves forward and directly asking, because it feels like you're asking for help. And it sort of goes against that small business personality style where as entrepreneurs, we're so used to saying, I can do this, I can get my hands dirty and do it myself. But getting out there and asking for help, it's part of the game, but also it's part of what consumers want to do. Like, you put yourself in a consumer's shoes and you find a brand that you love and something that you really enjoy. You want to share it with people. You want your friends and your family to know. You want to support the business, but sometimes you just don't think of that. It's not top of mind. So having a business say, hey, we would really appreciate this. It's a big deal for us. Your recommendation can actually make an impact to how, if we succeed or if we fail. People want to help. People want to be a part of your story, a part of your journey. So My recommendation is really not holding back from that. Some of our biggest sales have come from our customers that are not only loyal, but willing to pull in their cousins, pull in their friends, buy gifts for the office, that sort of thing. So I really recommend just like setting aside your ego and pride and being willing to just ask for that.
So in terms of the referral, it has to be genuine. And we do not go all out to say that you get 10% off if your friend come in and buy from us, your friend also get 10% off. Because that strategy there is an intention behind referral. And people nowadays, they don't want to feel they are being used. So we realize that referral has to be genuine. That means that when they refer, it's really, I feel that this product is good. You should try it too. So we have reached a point that customers refer based on their personal passion for the product and want to help out their friends to introduce a good brand to them. And that is how we differentiate from other types of referral. Definitely, we also encourage them to buy again by giving them, for example, if you come back again, there will be a discount code, a discount for repeat purchase. And that helps them to always return and to introduce their friend to come back again.
Referrals are a free or no cost way, right? So, and most people don't utilize them at all. See, we as the seller must put in active referral process. In other words, so many people have a passive referral process. So that passive referral process is they ask when they think about it or when their clients say, oh, you did a really good job, you should go talk to XYZ. That's their program. But if they put in an active one, expectation from day one, hey, we do business this way, and you have very kind and easy ways for people to actually make referrals, then you will pick up far more in the form of referrals than if you don't have a system. So it's about creating a system that creates that expectation within ourselves and within the other clients. Now, if you don't want to put a system in, the easiest thing to do is every time you talk to somebody, just ask them for a referral. You'd be surprised how many people will just give you the referral as long as the relationship is somewhat strong.
When it comes to referrals, definitely do ask. If you don't ask, it isn't necessarily going to happen. And what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't make it a weekly email. You could certainly put at the bottom of your email signature something I've seen with a number of my colleagues. It says, referrals are the lifeblood of my business. Please click here to refer a friend. So we adopted that inside of our platform. We have a homeowner app, which is tied to the service companies that you use. They have the ability to click on something and actually refer a business to us, or they could so if they have their pool service that uses us and they go, geez, I really like using this app, this is kind of really nice and convenient, I'd like my lawn guy to do it, they can click on a button, they can refer their lawn company to Pro Valet, but they can also refer their friends and neighbors to their service companies, which is what you're getting at. And we just make it easy for people to do that. As you say, a lot of businesses are built on word of mouth, and that works extremely well, and it's very valuable. But if you invite that, if you have a tool that allows that to invite that for an intentionality of building your business, you'd be surprised how quickly people respond to it.
5.
I think it's so important to check in with clients to see how they're doing along the way after the engagement's over. But I also think it's essential to talk to clients at the close of any engagement, because you want to understand, what was their experience like? And did they feel good about the process? And what's some feedback that they can give us? What did they really love about working with TrepWise? Where were some of the challenges that they had with TrepWise? And I'd say that because it's so important for us as a company to continually improve and to iterate. And we may be thinking, God, this process is awesome. And a client at the other end might be exhausted by the process. So understanding how people are feeling at the end of each engagement is super important. So we send a survey out, we have a phone call to a wrap-up phone call. And then in those moments, we ask them, would they consider being a reference for us? And most often, rarely has anyone said, no, we don't do references. They always say yes. And then because of that, we then have an add-on. And listen, if there are any other organizations in your world that you think could benefit from working with TrepWise, please mention us or send them our way. I would love to have an introduction. And they're so open to that. They know how the world works. They know that referrals are a key source, right? And especially if they're happy with you, they're excited to refer you.
6.
You gotta make the ask. It's really interesting. I get it. And I've fallen victim to this. And that's why I said I'm a work in progress. I'm not good at this either. You've got to make the ask. I think that one thing that might be helpful to other small business owners, this is what has become helpful to me, is to build in some annualized markers or things that you do to do it. First of all, when you complete a particular project or service, and particularly if it has gone well and you hear the accolades and whatever, ask at the moment, in that moment, for the client or the partner or whomever to materialize that. Would you give me a reference for my website? Would you give me a reference that I could use for an award submission? Would you complete this? Ask in that moment. You know, if you're on a recorded call, something like this, may I paraphrase that quote, or may I take that quote and use it? The time to ask is in the moment. That way you don't have to go back. One of the other things that we do is we do an annual survey of clients that we've had over the course of the year. We ask for the feedback, including areas to improve, things that are very constructive, but we also ask for positive feedback, and we are very clear with a disclaimer that enduring that this feedback may be used in our own marketing or referrals or things like that. I think that's a really wonderful way to do it. And people in our industry are kind of used to that cycle of getting the surveys at the end of the year. So it's behavior that is important. And I think another way to do that is if you're using some of the social media channels like a LinkedIn, there are actually, you can just make, it's kind of easy. You can actually like click people. Hi, would you give me a reference? Would you say something about this? Or it could be in general. So it can even be something that the social channels help you do very passively. And if people are willing to take the time even to write a sentence, it doesn't have to be about the breadth and depth of your career. It can be about one encounter. But those things stack up and those things add up. So I think we've got to make the ask. We got to swallow whatever trepidation we have about it. But these types of tools might make it easy to make that more of a reflexive process moving forward.
In times of inflation, many business owners must raise prices to manage costs. But this can upset customers if the quality doesn't improve. So how can you raise prices without losing clients? We ask the experts.
1.
I understand the difficulties of getting a foot into the market. You have to get customer to come in to buy your products. When it is so competitive, anyone can get a very reasonably cheap items in Amazon and now with Temu. So to get a customer to come in first, when we first launched, it was at a very good price, very reasonable price. And then when the customers start to grow and learn about the reputation, oh wow, the suit has a velvet inner and the lining is so soft, they started to spread the words around, and referral and reviews. We have like 2,800 reviews and all majority of them are 5-star review. And from there, we start to increase the price little bit by a little bit. And to explain why we need to do so, we also have a website. Let customer understand what is our productions, how do we source for the fabric, what is our belief that we have to be environmental friendly, and we also look into lasting fashion but not fast fashion, and also how we can help through our packaging, how we run the business. We are very pro-environment. Like for example, our mailing service, we partner with senders and they will plant a tree on behalf of us when we reach a certain amount. So in the sense, customer, they do their parts and we also contribute back. So all these extra beneficial things make customer realize that, hey, I'm not just paying for a product, I'm paying for a whole experience of helping the environment, having lasting fashion, looking good and feeling good. So all these additional feelings, emotions, benefits add up to justifying that paying more is actually better. So that is how we increase the price.
2.
So it's really just looking back on what other businesses that have succeeded over time have done. Yes, we are going to have to raise prices across all sorts of industries. We're not going to see that level out anytime soon, I don't think. And as we see prices inflate, companies can do their part by really playing into what we know consumers are looking for and what consumers need. Where can we have bundle deals? Where can we run specials around holidays? Now, there are certainly times, seasonal, yearly, where we don't want to run as many specials. sales, but sometimes we can increase an average order value and still give a consumer a good deal. Some of that is really psychological, right? We're not losing money as a business if we're saying you get a deal if you buy 3 or 4, because we're still selling more than we would if we were selling 1 unit of whatever it is, the company is doing. So playing into some of that psychology, but also giving consumers what they're looking for. We don't have to play hardball all the time. I think we can all kind of coexist in this landscape.
3.
There is a price sensitivity in every market. So one of the things that they want to do is first look at what is this price sensitivity. Most people can raise their prices. Now, if you raise them up to the place where Starbucks is charging $7 for a cup of coffee, there's going to be price resistance and maybe a price revolt. And that's what a lot of people are very afraid of. And it makes total sense. What is the value that we're actually conveying, and what does the market actually value on the value perception of what we're offering? If that value perception is high, then and your price isn't at that place, you can raise your prices and you'll get away with it. But always test that before we actually raise the prices. And if you just want to raise your prices, don't go any more than 1 or 2%. Just raise them up and see how the price sensitivity comes for that. So it's like, you got to find that sweet spot. That takes testing, but it's all about value perception.
4.
First thing you've got to do, you should know your costs, right? Your costs are going up, and if you think they're not, they already did, and this and that. So you can't be caught a year from now. Your cost went up 25%, so now you're going to charge a client 50%. My point is, and I tell all our franchisees this, the cost cartridge roll for an HP product or for a Canon product, they've gone up 25, 30% in the last 2 years. You can't just suddenly wake up and do it. You have to be tracking the pricing. I'd rather tell Anna monthly that this is where we are, and we're still trying to bring our price down. This is where we are, so it's 1%, 2%, 3%, instead of I got to raise your price 50% because I can't service you anymore. People today are used to inflation. They're used to going to the grocery store now and paying $200 for $100 worth of food. It's sadly that we've gotten used to it already. I'm a product of the 70s and 80s when inflation was really inflation, and it stayed, and it was very, very late 70s and so on. We've had inflation. We had a lot of it in 21, 22, and it eased up a bit now. But you should be on your cost at all times and your prices to your clients at all times. But if you're going to have to raise your prices, it's probably the best time you've had or will have is right now, but it should have been done 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
5.
It's interesting because cost of living has gone up. And I know at TrepWise, we just gave a cost of living adjustment across the board because of the inflationary pressures. Does that impact our pricing? Well, it does impact because our expenses went up. So with expenses going up and insurance has gone up and property, business insurance are all going up. So how do you factor that into your business model? And can you raise prices? The answer is yes, you can. As long as you're being competitive in the market. I often say pricing is set by the market. So the market will bear what it can bear. And I think that it's not unique that professional service organizations, law firms, accounting firms, consulting firms probably have pressure for the price going up because these expenses are eating into the margin. Organizations are going to choose whether they can afford having an outside professional services firm help them. And sometimes strategic planning and consulting are viewed as luxury items. I wouldn't view it that way because I think every organization needs to have a robust plan, but how much they can afford to pay for that plan, I think to your point, that's a question. As long as you can demonstrate your value though, as long as your value proposition is really, really clear, then if prices go up by 10%, that's not earth shattering and you still get a really good quality product. I cringe when you go to the gas station or you go to the grocery store and you realize, or you go out for dinner and just the bills are just a little bit higher, right? So that often enters in people's mindsets. So the person who's at work looking at pricing from vendors is the same person who's going to the store and seeing the price of eggs skyrocket. So it's all around. It's all around. And I think that enters people's mindsets as well.
The Best of Business show is brought to you by the BASA Awards. The BASA Awards exist to recognize, reward, and promote exceptional small businesses. We run 4 award programs: Best of America, Best of Australia, Best of Canada, Best of UK. Remember, it's strictly for small businesses only. Nominate your business today.